Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. Thanks for taking a few minutes and joining me. We're doing something a little different here at Yard Coach this week. We're going to do a little field trip. We're going to talk about a particular element in the landscape that in a small way, anybody can do. And in a large way, you're going to need some help. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Thanks for joining me. This should be a fun one. You know, in the theory behind landscape design, there's lots and lots of elements. And I've talked to you a lot about them. You know, we talk about hardscape and greenscape, irrigation and lighting, but there's other natural elements as well. The one we're talking about this week is structure. Natural structure brought to the landscape through the means of boulders, rock, cobble, all the things that we find out in nature, and we bring them back into our residential landscape and incorporate them in such a way that they serve a function and they serve an aesthetic value all at the same time. Not everybody has the availability to wrestle guys like this, and I get it. You know, when I was in the business, I dealt with that small niche market of just small residential yards, new installs or makeovers, and that's all I did. So I never got into some monster boulders, never had to get into super big power equipment. The biggest ones that I ever wrestled were probably 900 to 1100 pounds, and that's about it. But today I'm going to share with you and show you some ones that are much larger than that. But if you take a look at the background here, this is volcanic rock. And where I'm at in southern Utah right now, this is all a result of lava flow many hundreds of thousands of years ago or whatever it is. I'm not a geologist. But can you imagine having this color boulder in a landscape and the contrast between the greens of the plants, the colors of your driveway, the color of your house, and then you have this brownish burgundy volcanic boulder as far as the head wall of maybe a raised berm area. A lot of structure comes to be when you use boulders because you have taken the flat level plane of cement walkways, grass, lawns, etc., and you've now put elevation to it. And just a small amount of elevation makes a tremendous difference in how you look at it. You have a natural eye that'll go from the forefront of what you're standing in front of and instantly take you out and up. Even if it's 18 inches, it's much different. And chances are it's much different compared to anybody in the neighborhood. When I practiced, there was a designer and a contractor who was something of a mentor to me. And what he basically taught me was a total new theory, how to use boulders and incorporate it in such a way that you were able to bring in ground covers and creepers and spillers. And you had dry creek beds and other things that really served a functional effort in the yard as far as drainage areas, dry creek beds, French drains. It wasn't just dig a trench and bury it and slap sod over it. You actually created into an aesthetically pleasing looking functional element of the landscape that you could really stand out compared to 90% of everybody else. But when you use these, they come in sizes, and various regions are going to call them different. I'm just going to use the sizes that what we talked about when I was practicing. 1-man boulders, 2-man boulders, small power equipment, large power equipment. And so if you were doing, say like a dry creek bed, and you were using a larger cobble, most cobble is a one-man job. You know, one wheelbarrow, one person, fill, dump, and then you can use some of the larger cobbles as well. Still one-man stuff. Although where I practiced, there were some rock yards that had larger cobbles, and I'm talking two-man and small power equipment type of cobbles. And we used those in elements when I was doing pondless waterfalls, larger creek beds, even small retaining walls. I used them a couple times in the garden shows that I used to do, and used to get raves like, how did you possibly get those things in here? Well, take a look at here, right here. That's how I got them in here. Kanga was a heck of a piece of equipment. I called him my other two men on the job because that little machine freed me up to get through a recession where I couldn't afford to have other manpower. That little machine did it all, and it did it very, very well. Back on boulders, you go to the small power equipment like Kanga, then you get into the larger power equipment to move things like this. So when we're talking about size, we talked about one man, two man, small power, large power type of rock elements that you want to bring in. You know, if you look at things right here, you have one man boulders at my feet down here. They're, I don't know, some of them are even as small as head size. We used to call them head size because they're about as big as someone's skull. But most of the time, one person boulders stops right around the 150-pound mark, something like that. And then you get into the two-man boulders, which I'm talking also from a position of safety, you know, and non-injury type of landscaping. And in a case like that, you deal with things that are 150 to 300 pounds for a two-man boulder. And then small power equipment I'll show you throughout this, you know, in the B-roll, where a normal average person wouldn't be able to go and actually pick it up and place it. They might be able to knock it in place a little bit, they might be able to brace it or do whatever, but chances are you need a small piece of power equipment like Kanga in order to do that. Then there's guys like this that are used in much larger landscape projects, large water projects, retaining walls, huge culvert diversion and slowing down of runoff type of boulders. These guys here, thousands of pounds, this is a huge strap and excavator type of moving. And for the average DIYer, that usually is not what they're doing. Can they? Absolutely. Should they? Maybe with a little supervision and teaching first. I never moved anything like this in my career, never had to, but I have seen it done, and I know that it is used, but the cost of something like this gets kind of prohibitive to the DIYer. Those are the sizes of what boulders come in, and they're available at the retail level. And I often suggest that you go out to those rock yards and bulk materials yards and see what's there. The further away a retail yard has to bring it, the higher the cost is going to be. So like in California, if there was some type of special order for southern Utah volcanic granite caliche bottom type of rock, getting this onto a truck and out to California, you can imagine how much a rock like this is going to cost. So try to shop local, try to buy local, and stay within your budget. But the structural element of bringing rocks into the landscape and using it in various forms is kind of special. The other thing you can do is you can look for rocks that are, they are boulders, but they're shallower, and you can embed them into berming lawns and use it as a face boulder, which you'll see right here. And doing it that way also brings a total different interest level of what your front yard or your back lawn looks like by incorporating it in. The other thing about using rock is to naturalize it, and that is a landscape term. Naturalize it by embedding it and partially burying it in the location it's going to go. Just don't plop it on top and then landscape around it. That does not look natural. If you look at the area behind me and where the boulders were extracted out of the hillside at this quarry, you can see that they were embedded. And when you look at natural mountain landscapes and creek beds and creek edges, all the rocks are generally kind of buried in the bank, buried in the side of the hill. And that is a technique called naturalizing. It also helps when you start planting in and around that to naturalize it even further. Okay, so where do you start? There's nothing that changes when you introduce boulders and rock into your landscape. Your landscape plan, your landscape design, your landscape budget, your punch list, your acquisition of materials, it is all the same. You just have one more little subchapter you have to go pick up or have delivered, or have somebody with a piece of power equipment to place it for you. Does it add additional cost? Yeah, it does. These things are kind of a luxury item, just like lighting and water features. But to your taste and to the neighborhood and the area in which you live, will it really work well? You don't have to go gonzo. You don't have to create your own quarry and plant some grass and trees around in it. No, you can use it as a focal point in the corner of the back fence where you berm it up and you face it, retain it with a series of serpentine two-man boulders, and you've raised that area up maybe 18 inches. And then you come in and you backfill with imported soils and you plant and landscape that way. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Look at the inventory that I'm sitting in front of. Look at the one-man boulder that has my lap collapsing right now. But you can tell it's manageable for one person. And if you set this thing as a face boulder in front of a small berm, you can look at that and you probably have 10, 11 inches or more of vertical elevation change in your flat front yard or backyard. You can also get really fancy if you have these guys available to you on your own property. Within your circle of influence, maybe they have rocks. You can make some heck of unique raised bed vegetable gardens if you line these. Certainly a lot more aesthetically pleasing to look at than just cinder block or stackable block. So consider something like a structural element of rock in your landscape. It is unique. It is often not used very much except by professionals. And here I am bringing it into my world because I really loved bringing rock into people's landscapes. Where I practiced, we kind of had a limited amount of inventory to one particular kind, and it was the valley moss rock that was brought out of the foothills of the Northern California area. Thanks to Mike at Quality Rock, shout out to him. Many years of doing business together. In any case, the other thing you can rely on rock is if you leave it alone, you never introduce chemicals to the rock, you will eventually, slowly start getting lichens, moss, and algae growing on it, especially if you're watering. If your water is a treated water, municipal, that do occasional chlorine treatments, chances are the algae will never take hold. But Mother Nature has dappled these guys. Look at this pile. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of one-man boulders behind me. The other thing you can do is you can get fancy if you practice a little bit, and you can do back mortaring and stacking a couple high of these guys. Do the back mortar behind it so it's not visible in front, and you can make, 18-inch, 24-inch little retaining walls. Remember to stay consistent. Try to use one particular kind of rock. When you do dry creek beds, I often suggest that you use river cobble in there. It looks a lot more natural than if you use busted up pieces of something like this. You can use these for your edges, but then in the creek bed itself, use 1.5 or 3/4 round type of creek tumbled rock, and then you can make this the edging of your little dry creek beds. So, a little introduction into the structural element of boulders in the landscape. If you got a big checkbook, then you can play with the big boys. But if you have a small residential yard, please don't bring in the huge ones that you've seen in this video. It will look really silly. So depending on the size of your yard, I would suggest everything definitely 1,000 pounds and under for small residential yards. If you have a bottomless checkbook and you have much larger acreage, use the big guys for front entryways and highlights in big lawns. Don't forget to kind of immerse them into the soil, backfill around them and naturalize that. And I think you will be very, very happy and a real eye-opener as far as what your landscape could possibly look at. Hey, I am always available to you by email, youryardcoach@gmail.com. If you have any questions, drop me in a comment below or send me some pictures and let me know what you've done with boulders or how you could better learn about boulders. Hey, don't forget about the website. The 15-step DIY checklist is there, as well as the landscape maintenance checklist. And there's always the Amazon store where we got some great things for your landscape use. Anyway, good luck in your search. Make it fun. Do not get hurt. Use people and power efficiently and enjoy the journey. I'll see you guys next week. As always, to your landscape success. Bye for now.